Okay, great. We are live on YouTube. Thank you so much for everybody who's listening in. Before we get the meeting started, I want to thank again the members of the Lewisboro community, residents, stakeholders, people who live and work here, people who work or own businesses here. We're just so grateful for everyone participating in this process and being engaged in Lewisboro's comprehensive plan update. And thank you to everyone who participated in round one of the public meetings. We're really excited to be getting close to round two. So we're going to be talking about those meetings tonight. I just wanted to give a little bit of a tour of our website, as it is the best spot for the most updated current information about the project. And we've newly reorganized it, so hopefully it's a lot easier to navigate. So this is our homepage, which is lewisboro.gov/CMPSC, stands for Comprehensive Master Plan Steering Committee. A lot of words, we know. So one thing I want to draw everyone's attention to is there is this Google Translate button in the bottom right corner. And we've got Spanish and Chinese up here at the top, directing folks down to that Google Translate button. So lots of good information here. Our upcoming public workshops, I'll show you in a minute. A link to the survey, which will be live in May. Draft documents and past public workshops. So here you'll find all the raw input, all the public feedback and comments that were provided as part of round one. Those are all posted here. In addition, you can see the draft of the inventory and analysis report, which will eventually become part of the updated comprehensive plan. So lots of good reading there. Our community outreach and engagement plan, which outlines everything we're doing to make sure our public participation is as inclusive and wide-reaching as possible. And I need to thank again and again our outreach team volunteers who have been working really hard to spread the word virtually, email, social media, but also posting paper flyers in locations around town. And we are doing another effort to get new flyers up this week and this weekend. So keep an eye out for that. We've also got frequently asked questions, information about the steering committee's mission, our background, how to get in touch with us, the current comprehensive plan from 1985, master plan it was called, all of our agendas and minutes from these meetings, recordings from these YouTube streaming sessions, and then updates to the town board, which are our formal quarterly reports and presentations to the town board. So with that, I just want to take us to the upcoming public workshop page. So lots of information here. This is meant to be the place where you can go to get a lot of your questions answered and find out everything you need to know about the meetings. So importantly, we want everyone to know that there are multiple opportunities to get involved with this round of providing public input. We wanted to provide a variety of opportunities, different formats, different times of day, different days of the week. The content, which will be reviewing the draft vision statement and the draft goals and objectives for the comprehensive plan, that content will be the same for all of the different options. So it's really up to you to choose whichever date and format you prefer. The goal is for everyone to attend a Hamlet workshop that's most applicable, but you're welcome to attend more than one Hamlet workshop. You're also welcome to attend the all Hamlet workshop. And you're also invited to take the survey in addition to any of those. So mix and match as you see fit. So the Opportunity Series 1 are the Hamlet specific workshops happening on Saturdays. There's a morning session and an afternoon session, and childcare will be available in partnership with Country Children's Center. So you can bring your kids along, and there will be fun art projects and things to keep them busy with professional childcare on site, right in the same room. So then we have a Sunday evening meeting, workshop, Sunday evening from 6:30 to 8:30. There will be translators there available. And then the survey will be available from May 13th to June 30th. So The first Hamlet meeting starts on May 13th. The last one is June 11th. And then the survey will be open until June 30th. So again, lots of opportunity to participate here. We want people to come out, participate, spread the word, reach out to us if you have any questions at all. Contact information is right here on the website. It's in a couple different places, but this email goes directly to us. So yeah, don't hesitate to be in touch if you have any questions at all. Okay, with that, thank you so much to the steering committee members. And we've also got we've got our board liaisons. I don't see them here yet, but they've been really involved. And we've also got the planning board chair and not present tonight, but also ACARC chair and zoning board of appeals chair. So thank you to everybody for all the hard work going on behind the scenes to make sure that this process is smooth and on budget and as wide-reaching and inclusive as possible. So let's all keep up the good work. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Valerie to launch into tonight's agenda. And the first couple, I won't share my screen, but just to ground us, our first items for discussion are reviewing the workshop station exercises and the proposed survey questions. And then we'll get into some logistics stuff with Valerie.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So let's start off with the actual workshop stations. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so what we decided to do, well, as you know, you developed a welcome packet. The welcome packet, we went in and we provided some edits to Katie that we thought would better fit with what we're planning to do. And then also just to add some additional descriptions and information for the public. So basically, I'm going to go into the actual interactive stations that you're going to see at each and every one of the meetings. So the first station, so we're going to have people come in. The first station is going to be really focused on the draft vision statement. So we will have the draft vision statement printed off in a 24 by 36 board. That will be in English, but we will have the draft vision also translated in Chinese and Spanish for those and that'll be part of the welcome packets as well. And then we're going to have basically a post-it exercise similar next to the vision statement, where we're asking people specifically to provide us if they think that the vision statement represents the vision for Lewisboro. If not, like what would they change, and that they can provide, notes on whether they like what they like and what they don't like about the vision statement. That is going to be pretty much, we'll have the people that are welcoming everybody and registering everybody, will have them just sort of have people start there, because we think it'll be important for people to understand the vision and then to go on to the goals and objectives. That being said, if for some reason somebody does the opposite, that's completely fine. It's not going to be any sort of problem, but this way it kind of gets everybody into like a mindset of thinking on a very macro level, and then you start dropping down to the more of the micro level. This particular exercise is going to be a little bit more, this one's going to be not necessarily have an attendee there. It's going to be pretty straightforward. You'll have the welcome packet. The next three stations now, and that's somewhere where if you want to have a volunteer, that would be great. Maybe having a volunteer or two just kind of hanging around the vision statement and talking to people, and then ask, and if anybody has any questions or whatever, that would be helpful. But it's not mandatory because of the fact that it will be pretty straightforward. The next three stations are all generally the same exercise. What we will have on stations 2, 3, and 4, we broke down the goals and objectives based upon like broader topics: the built environment, environmental resources, and community resources. And so what we will have at the 3 different stations, so we'll start off with, like, for example, with the built environment, we're going to have the goals and objectives dealing with land use and zoning, housing, and development. Those, again, will be listed on larger boards. And what we are going to do is the actual feedback on the goals and objectives are going to be part of the tabletop exercise. So we're actually going to have an attendee sit at the table and facilitate discussions with people that come up that are reviewing and reading the goals and objectives. And we're going to have basically, and whether we haven't finalized whether we're going to do Post-its or we're just going to have people actually write on some boards, and then also have the facilitator write down information that he or she's hearing from the community. But basically, that's where we're going to get that facilitation that was of interest to the committee last time. That is similar to what we did virtually. So we're going to have people sit down, people can come and go. But what we think will happen is, as people are reviewing things, people asking questions, people will be talking, and this will be a very much a back and forth dialogue where we're taking comments on the goals and objectives. And we will be asking people there if there are any goals and objectives that they disagree with, ones that they like. Are we missing any goals? Are we missing any objectives? And then getting that feedback. At the same station, there will also be maps, and those maps will be on easels. And everybody will be handing out pens and markers as people kind of come in. And what we will be asking people to do, those particular maps, and let me just show you, for example, we will have, so for example, we're going to have this Golden Bridge Hamlet planning area map, right? This will be on a 24 by 36 inch poster. And we're going to ask people directly, think about the goals and objectives, and are there any particular locations within Golden's Bridge that you think either support or either locations or a project or something that either supports the goals and objectives, or one that, if there were to be some sort of transformation or some project instituted in that particular area, would then end up being an implementation of some of the goals and objectives that are identified. And this will give people the ability to just sort of write whatever they want, identify different areas, and it allows that kind of free form expression of their concerns. We will also have on those same stations, we will have, for more background information, we're going to have the land use, and then we'll also have the environmental resources map. So there would be like 3 maps, and one of them in particular, we'd have people write on. And we're going to have multiple copies of those maps so that if for some reason they get filled, we'll take down that map and then put up a new blank map for people to write on. So that is basically what we are anticipating doing as part of these individual stations. So we will have, again, somebody facilitating at a table, but then there will also be the maps where people can, draw directly on the maps and identify particular areas. We think some of the stations will be a little bit more productive in terms of what people put on the maps, than others, but we think it will be a good exercise either way.
Thank you.
Are there any questions on the overall framework I'm going to stop sharing so we can see everybody, for the particular workshop?
I just want to add a crucial thing I forgot to mention in the introduction: the draft vision statement and the draft goals and objectives and this draft welcome packet that Valerie was just sharing on her screen. Those are all posted to that page, the upcoming public workshops page of our website as of now. So they're publicly available for everyone to see and have plenty of time to look at and digest and interact with before the actual workshops start. So questions for Valerie? John?
Yeah, are the facilitators from MPV or is it us?
No, oh, sorry. Yes, the facilitators will be from MPV for stations 2, 3, and 4. Stations 1 is when we're opening it up for, if somebody would like. Now, there's a couple different options because we will have a 4th person there. And that person is going to be helping with the registrations, but we could always flip-flop whatever you prefer. If you want that person to be at the vision statement, we can do that as well. But either way, we're going to have 4 people there for each one of the meetings. And so there's technically 4 stations plus the registration. So there would be technically the vision statement that we'd either have people just kind of come and read what's on their welcome packet and then provide the Post-its, or if you want to have volunteers there, that's fine too, and we can work around that. But we will have, in terms of the actual facilitation with the tabletop discussions, we will have 1 person from MPV at each one of those tables.
Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting question for the group. Would we like an MPV facilitator to be at the vision statement station and then have volunteers from this group cover registration? I think that would be nice.
I think I would prefer that.
Anyone else have thoughts about that? Okay. Let's plan to do that, because I think questions will come up. And if people haven't gotten a chance to read the FAQs that are in the welcome packet, one of them is, what is a vision statement? How does it relate to the comprehensive plan document? People might not have had a chance to read that. So it'd be nice to have someone from MPV there to answer those kind of questions.
Yeah, I'd rather not be in a position to talk about substantive matters, actually.
Yeah,
that's
and
fine.
I think that's how we've structured everything to date. So I think it's good to keep rolling with that.
Okay.
So we'll come back to volunteers signing up for dates at the end of the meeting, so we can make sure we have somebody to cover registration for every day. Any other questions for Valerie about the station exercises or questions or comments? Okay, great. And we all had a look at that welcome packet and contributed to it. So thank you so much for everybody's input into that.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, so let's move on to the survey.
Yes. All right. So the survey. I'll share my screen again. Hold on. Apologies, I'm trying to find it. It doesn't. Oh, here we go. That's why it wasn't showing all windows. Okay. So what we decided to do, we basically decided we were going to take that welcome package and bring it into a survey. It's going to be a little bit different because, one is more of a interactive, discussion, and then the other one is going to be a little bit more of a, basically question and answer. And the thing is, could somebody attend the meetings and then come back and then also provide input or want to think about things a little bit more? That's fine too. And you'll see why I'm saying that. So basically, we start off with information, same general background information, and we're still working on the formatting in terms of the text sizes and stuff like that. But we're going to go right into asking people about the draft vision statement. And we have the vision statement listed here. And then we have specifically are asking people, does this represent your vision for Lewisboro? Strongly agree, neutral, disagree. And then if not, what would you change? Right. And so this is an open-ended question that people can then express what they would change on this particular, on the vision statement.
Is there some way in this that, so you could, let's say, agree, but still feel it's missing something, right?
Right. And so we might change this a little bit to say, would you like to expand on your answer? Maybe instead of if not, please explain to us what we would change. So we're still tweaking the the actual language a little bit more, but that's would be the first exercise for the vision statement. Then the second, it does give a little bit of an introduction about the goals. And this again is very similar. The text is taken almost verbatim from the welcome packet, because we figured since the committee felt comfortable with having that as basically, distributed to everybody at the public meetings, we figured we'd work that into the survey. And then you go into here, and then we have the goals and objectives. So we have like the goal, and we're asking people throughout this whole sequence, just do they agree, disagree, neutral, or strongly agree, neutral, or disagree. And here we're asking specifically, if you disagree above, how can we approve this goal or the related objectives? Are we missing any goals? Is an objective missing for a goal? So this is specifically very similar to that kind of tabletop discussion, but now this will be a little bit more free form on people being able to answer. We are not, and we are specifically kind of highlighting the disagree, because in all reality, it's great to know if somebody strongly agrees or neutral about a particular comment, but we're really more concerned about if they disagree, what their reasoning is for this agreement. John, I think you had a question.
Yeah, so on this form, there isn't a lot of space for comment. Is it limited in some way?
No, it's not going to be limited. And again, it's about formatting, so we can make that a little bit. We're still tweaking with some of this, but we can make this the box even larger, so that people can feel like they have more space to respond to or express their concerns. And so again, it just goes, and then basically what we do is we're going to go through each one of these goals and objectives. So there are 14, there's a number of pages, which is why we figured we really do want to get feedback on everything, which was one of our concerns. And that's one of the reasons why we just said we wanted to make people feel like they can get through this survey, as opposed to, there's plenty of times people start a survey and they go, this is too long. So at least we're hoping that, just having as simple as agree, disagree, neutral, and then just having one area at the bottom for people to write in will encourage people to continue through the survey. Janet, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. I guess two questions. One is, can people stop doing the survey, pause it, and come back? And the other question is there any place where someone identifies what hamlet they're discussing or talking about?
Yeah, so that comes in later on in the survey. And the reason why we did that on purpose, and we thought about this, because when we do these exercises, even at the meetings, we're going to have exercises on the goals and objectives. But if we're kind of combining, right? So we are making them Hamlet focused as much as possible, but we are providing, like, for example, Golden's Bridge to be able to come in an afternoon and morning session. So when people come to these tabletops and start talking about their goals and objectives, we're not necessarily going to say, which Hamlet are you specifically, where people are going to just express whether they like the goal, they don't like the goal. And for the most part, these are supposed to be townwide goals. But we do get to, if you recall, in the actual public meeting, we start focusing on the Hamlet areas in the mapping exercise. And so one of the things that we are going to do, let me get to it. I swear we're almost there. Okay, so then the last piece is we're asking people specifically to think about their Hamlet, and then you're going to identify up to 3 locations that support the goals and objectives. So very similar to that, the mapping exercise that we are doing in person, we're going to be asking people to do a similar mapping exercise on the survey. And so this is where you can pick which hamlet. So let's just say you pick, we're going to stick with Golden's Bridge. So we say pick Golden's Bridge, then a map shows up of the Golden's Bridge area, and you can go in, let's say, for example, you want to say something about Todd Road Conservation Area. Then you can click on here, and then specifically you can type in and express, again, your interest of why that particular area is importance to you. And that particular comment will then get saved because, and we're still working on this, on the text here, because what we need the survey responder to do then is they're going to click a second location and do the same thing again, using the second location, and then again, zooming in, and then deciding, and I want to talk about this particular area, and then they'll write in what their concerns are or why they think that particular area supports that particular goal and objective. And what we are doing is we're trying to, as much as possible, make it easy. We're also thinking about trying to embed, we're going to add a hyperlink to the goals document so that as people are thinking about this, they can just go right into the goals document without having to try to worry about going back in the survey or trying to open up another screen to try to find those goals and objectives again. So that's where we get a little bit more of the refined hamlet area, hamlet specific issues associated with the online survey. But you will need to go through the entire survey as opposed to stopping it, leaving, coming back a couple days later. It does require you to go through the whole survey. So one of the things what we can do at the very beginning, and that's a good point, is we'll just emphasize that this survey is going to take about probably like 15 minutes, and you do need to go from the beginning of the survey all the way to the end of the survey.
Is there an option once you submit your response that you can go back and change it later? Because that would be a way for people to sort of stop and start.
No, once you submit, it's submitted. You could take it over again, if that's what you like to do. And again, one of the things that, we're trying to emphasize throughout this whole process, it's not so much how many votes does a particular thing get, but it's really, we're just gaining feedback as to, are we on target with the goals and objectives that we identified? And then as we in the comprehensive plan, we're going to describe those goals and objectives a little bit more detail, describe like particular programs, describe potentially, like, for example, if we said, look for grants, maybe there's some grant programs we can identify. But this is also where, like, let's say, for example, we said, you want to upgrade your parks. And this is where some people can say, you know what, this particular park needs assistance, right? Or, you know what, we really love this park and what the town did, in terms of upgrading the park. And those are the things that we can highlight in the comprehensive plan that are very hamlet specific.
I think this is great, Valerie, and thank you so much to you and your team. We don't have to do this tonight, but I think we could help you go through with a fresh set of eyes and just make sure that, like, at the beginning and at points throughout, there's little notes that kind of help with the instructions or the interface. And people don't have to answer every single question, correct?
No, and that's what we specifically did it. So we, because we do have the option of having to have everybody, but we didn't want people to do that. If for some reason people wanted to skip over certain sections, they can. That's completely permissible.
Yeah, that'll make it easier for people. If they don't have time to get through the whole thing, they can just zero in on the topics that are most important to them. So if we can make that clear in a couple places, I think that'll help make it more user friendly. So yeah, when you get it to a place where you feel like you want that kind of feedback, then you can share it with us and we can kind of add that layer of
yeah, that'd be great. And I think we're hoping to get it to that point within like less than a week. And so then we're going to send it over to you. We do want the committee to review everything, confirm the text, because then that text is going to go out and get translated. And if you recall, we're going to have 3 separate surveys. One is going to be, because we figured it was going to be too much to have the same survey, have the translations in the 3 different languages. So we figured we're going to have one survey for English, one survey for Spanish, and one survey for Chinese.
That's wonderful. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Valerie about the survey? Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
I think that worked out really well. That was a great idea to use the welcome packet and just sort of transfer it to a different format.
Yeah, and the one thing that we did also, just to give you a little more background, so this is like, we're using a program called Survey 123, and Survey 123 allows up to the 3 locations. After that, it sort of, the way the program works, it's better to you, like, if you want like to have, like, let's say you wanted somebody to be able to do 10 locations, that's when we would want to have like a separate survey where people just go in individual. So what ultimately is that you just click on it, and each time you submit a thing, and then you go out and then you start another one. And we thought that would become a little bit too cumbersome for people. And we felt that the 3 locations was probably a good number, because that really does, to some extent, kind of focuses things. And if people really want to have more than 3 locations, I mean, we can always we can even put something there, and this is, out to the committee. We can always have people either come back in and like do another survey, or we could have them, if there's more information they want to share, we could always say, please email the comprehensive plan steering committee email, and then we could take, those comments also during that time period as well. So it's up to you.
Yeah, what are folks' thoughts on that? I think,
Email any additional.
yeah.
That's my thought.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Kirsten, are you okay with that? Since that'll, you'll be monitoring email flow. Yes, we just will make a public commitment, as we have with all, that steering@planlewisboro email address is the email address of record. And
Right.
we've asked all public comments to be sent there from the beginning. And when, especially when it comes to the survey, we will make the commitment that all of that feedback will be given directly to the consulting team.
Yeah. So we could always just have that on there. If you want to, identify more, please feel free to just email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Great.
that'll cover all the bases.
So, Mark, you look like you were going to say something.
Oh, no, I just wanted to share that I thought, this is well crafted, and I like the graphics and the integration of the maps and so forth. I thought you're doing a good job. So appreciate it.
Thank you. I think it's a big team effort between us and your committee. So
Thanks, everybody.
So I think that kind of goes right into the next topic, where we were talking about how to reach out to we're planning to have, there's 2 rounds of in-person meetings with the zoning boards, planning boards, ACARC, the Conservation Advisory Council, as well as, and the town board, to get feedback throughout the process. The first was, we already did that at the very beginning to get initial feedback. Now there's the goals and objectives, and then the last piece is the zoning. Now technically in our budget, we have basically budget for 2 rounds of in-person meetings, and then we have 1 round of just general feedback. And I think it would probably be, our thought was that it would probably be more important to meet with the individual committees and boards for the zoning piece, right? Because this is when we're having the details of and somebody's going to say, well, can we talk about this definition, or can we talk about this particular regulation? But our thought was that maybe we can develop a really nice email. We could develop it and send it out to ourselves, or we could send it so that the committee sends it out, but to each one of the boards and of those committees and ask them to take, send them the information on the public meetings, but then also ask them maybe they want to take the actual survey itself. So this way it's ensuring that their feedback is definitely incorporated into this next round of the workshops in terms of the goals and objectives. And then we would go to them in person for the zoning comments on the proposed zoning changes.
But let me just make sure I understand. So in the budget, you have 2 more interactions with each of these boards and committees.
We have one more round of interactions in terms of like actually attending meetings, right? And sitting down, right? But then we also have some budget put aside to get feedback though from the boards and committees in terms of, during this phase of the process.
Do you have any insight on what has been helpful for other towns that you've worked with? Like where?
Well, I will be honest with you. In a lot of other communities, you are doing, and I can't emphasize this over and over again. The amount of outreach and input that you're asking of like the towns, the committees, as well as the public is just outstanding. So in a lot of other communities that we work in, at times they don't even ask the boards and committees for their input. So you're asking for 3 different rounds, and we think it's most appropriate. And I think it's a great idea, and I think it's an excellent idea. I think it's a really important thing to do. We've already done the initial. I think the goals and objectives we definitely want to get feedback on, but I think the zoning is really where you're going to want to have those meetings where we sit down and kind of identify even tweaks or recommendations or concerns or additional edits from those groups.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask Jan to address, but then Dan, I want to come to you next and just get your input, and Rose as well as the other boards that will be involved here.
Yeah, so first, I definitely agree that the board will want to be more involved at the zoning, at the actual code. So I think that's great. I wasn't clear when you said you wanted, either the survey taken. Are you asking us to suggest that the board members take them individually, or that the board itself as a group try to do it? Because I think that might be difficult. I think we can certainly get the individuals, ask them to take that with keeping their role on the planning board or the ZBA or ACARC or CAC in mind as they take it. But I think trying to get the board as a group to take the survey is going to be difficult.
Yeah, no, you're right. I meant individuals, but making sure that they all participate and provide feedback, just really trying to encourage full participation from the ZBA, members of the ZBA, planning board, ACARC, Conservation Advisory Council.
That's great. Thanks.
Would you have them do this before or after the meetings?
So we would encourage them to do it during the same time frame as the rest of the public.
Okay.
Dan?
Yeah, it sounds good. I'm just trying to think if there's any particularly exciting way to engage the boards, and having them all come to one room. We never get in one room with those boards, so it's just the boards and the town board, and doing the survey with one of those things where you put up a question and everybody hits their keyboard and live, during the session the results come up, or I don't know, some way to bring these boards together and somehow get a little bit more out of the event. That was a probably dumb idea, but I'm just trying to
Well, I mean, the other option, I mean, so the town board, I was going to actually plan to attend to another town board meeting and, highlight to the town board the goals and objectives that are being proposed. So you could, I mean, as an alternative, we could set up a town board meeting, and of course, I'd have to ask the town supervisor, but we could do a reason and invite the other boards and committees to attend. Right, and then I could do a presentation, and then we can take, and boards and committees can comment on maybe the goals and objectives, and that's another way of getting their input without having.
That could be interesting, and they could even attend virtually, the other boards or something like that, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, that could be fun. I would love to hear their, their thinking processes as they, do this live.
I
Yeah, so-
actually like that suggestion being made, because I think one of the issues, not only, we're having this whole thing about 5, 6 towns, whatever, getting together and being Lewisboro. I don't know that the planning board and ACARC that would be great to have them come together to talk about. Not even, they don't have to have the same survey and vote on having the same response, but being able to meet each other and then to give their input would be.
Yeah, I mean, we can absolutely do that. I mean, because
really
the
interesting. Yeah.
if the planning board can come and attend that night and they can participate, and then the planning board can also take the survey on their own. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just trying to think, but that would be a great, if the committee's interested in that and thinks it's a good idea. I mean, I can work at the supervisor's office to schedule something like that.
Just
Yeah,
a thought, because we're trying to talk about unifying the different parts of Lewisboro, and that would be a good model. But anyway,
my concern is that having being the chair of the CAC, whether they want to attend one more meeting. So my thought for me would be, I'll just stick it on the agenda, then I have to do it.
I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to have 100% attendance, but
Right.
hope that, at least some representation.
It would be an interesting option, but the other thing I wonder is anytime we get, a quorum of a board together, this is sort of doing town work. It isn't.
You just have to notice it. That's all.
Yeah, you just notice it. I mean, the public can come in and listen in as well. Yeah.
Right. So I think we have to be just aware as we do it, that we're actually having a meeting of a lot of different boards, that not just the town board.
Plenty of advanced planning, enough time for everybody to notice accordingly.
Right.
I think it's a great idea, and I would just underscore that I think it's important that it happens at a town board meeting, since the town board is the ultimate body that will be voting to approve or not the new plan. I think having it be at their meeting, where they definitely all will be there, and then the other boards are welcome to attend, and it'll be tough scheduling to get 100% participation, but it would be great, whoever can come and participate as well would be fantastic.
Well, and I think you can also make the point that if for some reason you can come, you can still take the survey. So.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Oh,
And I think this will also will be nice for people from the public if they want to listen in and learn a little bit more about the goals and objectives, right? Because I think what we'll do is, we'll clearly provide the information ahead of time to the boards and committees, because nobody's going to want to hear me go through each and every one. So we'll probably, do a nice presentation on the general goals and some of the objectives and the reasonings behind them, but that will also help educate the public as well.
Mm-hmm. So are we thinking maybe a June board meeting? Because that will give everybody enough time to plan and notice, etc. Since the public meetings are June 11th, and then the survey's open till June 30th.
In some ways, if you want the public to use this as a way to hear more about the goals and objectives, it should be maybe before, earlier up in the schedule of meetings that's just one aspect of it. Especially if
have it
they
in
want
May?
to say, I really disagree with what, the planning, with the direction the planning board going, I want to make some comments that are different. So they would get to hear some of that and perhaps comment.
Okay, well,
Janet, are you
keeping-
talking about May?
Yeah, that would be May. So keeping all that in mind, let's let Valerie coordinate with the supervisor's office because it depends
Okay.
what else they have going on their agendas
Okay.
and their timing and everything.
Right, and we can try to get that coordinated very soon, so that way, if for some reason it ultimately is in May, they'll give everybody plenty of notice to send that information out to their respective boards.
And our meetings are usually Mondays, but if it like just wasn't gonna work on a Monday, we could have a, change that and have a special meeting.
Okay.
I think you might want to make this a special meeting because this is going to consume a good chunk of time. And you want the time available. You don't want to get rushed.
Yes, no doubt. I just meant it could be other than a Monday. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll see what they have, what's on the upcoming agenda too. So let me, I'll coordinate with the supervisor's office. I'll start the coordination tomorrow and we'll get back to everybody.
That sounds like a great plan.
All right.
So on that topic, it's also on the agenda to touch on the idea of the senior adult.
Yes. Right. So that one is going to be a little bit different. I thought I would reach out to the senior coordinator, identify my guess is it's probably going to be a sort of a daytime meeting. We'll go up there, we'll meet with the senior group, and I'll work with the coordinator directly as to how they feel would best, how the presentation would best work with that particular group. In terms of like the topics, in terms of the exercise, in terms of the format, and then I would work with them directly, but it will be focused on, what we've been kind of basically going through in the last 2 rounds of the public meetings, sort of like concerns and issues as well as goals and objectives, and kind of work with them to get their feedback.
Be aware that we have a meeting set up through the senior coordinator for May 31st that Eileen and I are working on. So
May 31st. Okay.
Okay. And is that
So
during the
is
day?
I'm not sure what the timing is, but we did pick a date. And
Are there synergies here potentially?
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
plus, we're going. We're in their newsletter, senior newsletter already. So
remind us what your headline is, like what the topic is, John, how you build it.
well, I don't think Eileen and I put that together yet, but I think
Okay.
that we're going to probably use something very similar to what Charlene and I are doing this coming week on the library thing. I mean, I don't know why it would be any different.
Mm-hmm.
So we're probably going to take, I would think, a bunch of those charts.
Mm-hmm.
Eileen is sort of in the lead, but I'm making sure it kind of fits. So,
Okay. Just for everyone context, Eileen is one of the volunteers from the outreach teams. And when we had our big outreach team brainstorming session, she volunteered to help with some programming for the senior adults group here in Lewisboro.
yeah, she's a member of the CAC and a former New York City judge. So
there might, so what you're planning is more of an informational session.
So why don't if you can send me the information that you're planning to present, or just the general topics you're planning to present, because then it might make sense that if you present your topics first and then we come in like a week or, the next meeting a couple weeks later, so that it just kind of builds off one off the other, or depending upon what you're presenting, maybe we both attend the same day. So we can talk about that as
okay.
options.
I think the building having informational first and then focus group second might be nice, there'll be momentum and people will have some time to digest and think and then come back and participate.
John, I have made some changes also. I'm gonna send them to you tomorrow. Maybe we could send that to Valerie when we get it settled, because we have some time. It's about 21 slides.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any reason why we would pitch anything different, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. That's why I'm asking, if you're gonna do anything differently.
Well, I got to work with Eileen, but I will strongly suggest that we have a good pitch, so.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll send you that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, why don't we do one info presentation first and then MPV session second, and then info can be in May and then the participation can be in June. Give everybody a little bit more of a runway to get ready.
Okay.
And you can go through me and Kirsten, but Pam Veith is the senior coordinator that you can schedule with.
Okay.
Cool. And again, context for everybody listening. From the beginning, we've been saying that we wanted to have a senior focus group because the survey might be kind of difficult for people to do, and getting to a meeting in person where, in public with a lot of other people around might also be difficult. So this provides a nice separate option to make sure that we give opportunities for folks that might not otherwise be able to participate. I did put on the website that paper copies of the survey can be available by mail. I'm realizing now with the maps that might be a little tricky, but maybe we can make like a mail version, a postal mail version that just takes out that interactive map part and sort of asks that free form question and just says, please describe in words where the location is, or something as a alternative. So just throwing that out there, if that's something, Valerie, you could work with.
Well, I also think you should give Pam a bunch of them, because they have bus trips and stuff, so they come to Ontario. And so that's a place they could just pick them up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Valerie, if you could just add that to your team's
Okay.
list, even if it's just the same thing, but with that last question, just slightly adjusted.
Okay.
With larger print if possible.
Yeah, you could ask them rather than put it on a map to just describe the location or something like that. Just take the graphics out of it.
Mm-hmm. And there can be a note on the survey as well about the date of the focus group meeting, that if people want to come in person to contribute to that they can.
So that will just be for the seniors, are we talking about? Okay.
Paper copies by mail technically should be available to anyone who asks for them, but we can make them available through the senior outreach office.
Okay.
Do you want to also have them in the library and some other places, or just?
I think by request only would be okay. Is everybody comfortable with that? Like the senior office will have copies ready to go, but otherwise you can email Kirsten and she can mail a copy to you.
Okay.
Just based on we've had less than 30? That you don't happen to remember off the top of your head, Larry. I think it was like less than 30 paper copies that we've had come through through all our various surveys. So it's nice to have that option. Cool. Yeah, it's important for accessibility. Important for accessibility, but definitely not something we have to have a stack at the library or something. Because it does create a lot of work for somebody to then manually input into the survey. So if people can go online, that'd be great, but this is a very good option as well for people that don't want to. Okay, any questions or comments on the, did we also cover the scheduling zoning updates topic? Was that?
No, we
both?
did not.
Okay,
No, we
then let's do that.
Okay, so I'm just gonna also share my screen again. Okay, so this is our time. Can everybody see this?
No.
Mhm.
Just a little bigger? Bigger.
Yeah, hold on, let me fix this for a second. That's not helping, but hold on, I gotta get.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, so we are. Okay, surprisingly enough, all this has been done. So we are now in the, we are now developing the goals and objectives. So we already have those actually a little bit ahead of schedule. And the public Hamlet meetings are in May and June. And then this is where I have like, we have like, I have outreach for the different, I just was calling them land use boards and council meetings, but you know, we talked about that as well as like the focus group. And then this is where we start on the actual developing of the draft comprehensive plan, which is right around June and July. And then also the zoning amendments. And so all along the plan was to have the zoning amendments be prepared and be adopted along with the adoption of the comprehensive plan, which means we're going to need to start working on those sometime this summer. So one of the things that we're going to need to start thinking about is how, if you want to have some sort of subcommittee or how you want to go about like having that sort of interaction as to identify for when we start identifying what probably needs to get, you know, amended, and the actual working on the amendments of the zoning, who should be helping us with identifying some of the directions that we're going to go and making some of those more of the nuanced decisions that are going to be necessary before it goes back out to the public again for additional public input.
I mean, you really want to get Duffy Price there because he's head of the ZBA, so he sees all the appeals.
How does this process usually work in other towns that you work with, Valerie?
Right. So typically, you know, we usually have some sort of subcommittee. It can vary depending upon who, you know, how I would recommend no more than probably 6 or 7 people, because at that point, then it becomes, you know, much larger set of people and probably not as, I guess, efficient in the long run. I mean, a lot of this is, you know, a lot of the changes that we're going to be identifying are based upon the goals and objectives, but then also just doing housekeeping, cleaning things up. So it probably would be good to have somebody from the planning board. It would be good to have somebody from the ZBA, maybe somebody from like the town board, just so that they're aware of what's, you know, being contemplated. Maybe somebody from the comprehensive plan steering committee as well. And then if for some reason there are a couple other people that you feel that would be helpful to have that kind of additional input, happy to have those, you know, be involved as well.
In the
just-
review process, I know Greg Fischetti is the town attorney, but I think that Judd, the planning board attorney, should also have an opportunity to look at it also. I guess that's afterwards, after the committee looks at it.
Yeah, so I mean, they can be involved. You know, I'm working on zoning rewrites right now in another community, and the town attorney is involved in the monthly discussions, and so that's a possibility as well. And so I just kind of wanted to open up that discussion tonight. No decisions need to be, you know, decided tonight, but what I'd like to do is have, if the town wants to develop a sort of subcommittee, have that sort of developed over the next couple months, because that way, starting in June, probably start reaching out to everybody, pretty much towards the end of our public comment period on the goals and objectives, to start kind of formulating next steps, for the zoning.
So just to clarify, the process is that MPV will be making suggestions based on the comprehensive plan process.
It'll be more than suggestions at that point. We're actually
Okay.
going to start drafting zoning text,
Great.
right?
So you'll be leading the way in terms of the content. You just
Yes.
need a group of people to review what your team develops, provide input on it.
That's correct.
Okay. Great. So it's kind of the same structure that we've been following all along, that your team is the content expert and making the recommendations, and we're helping to make sure that it reflects, that it fits into the process, that it, in this case, it's a little bit more nuanced, that it
Exactly, because you're going to want, like, let's say, for example, we start coming up with certain definitions or certain, you're going to want, like, for example, Jan saying, you know what, we have this problem constantly at the planning board when we're reviewing this type of application. Can we fix this particular definition, right? So it's going to be less of, so it will be good and helpful for us to have that kind of input from the various boards that really deal with the zoning on a day-to-day basis, in terms of issues or opportunities that they have identified as well. And then, of course, that would make sure that also runs and meets up with your goals and objectives that we're identifying as part of the comprehensive plan process.
So let me understand also. So let's say a couple of the goals are to expand commercial opportunities in Lewisboro. Another one might be expand affordable housing. Would you go so far as to make radical changes to the zoning to support those goals?
Right. So radical is a strong word. Basically, what we would probably do, let's say, for example, like one of the goals and objectives that we're identifying right now is, like, let's just talk about commercial, or we even mention, identifying potential, keeping an open idea of, like, potentially for additional housing opportunities. So we're not necessarily going to go in and say we're going to rezone particular areas. What we might work with the committee is saying we could identify potential floating zones if that is something that the committee and the town, this is where it would be helpful to have, like, town board input, if you want to undertake that at that point in time. That is something that, doesn't have to be done right away. It's something that could be done, down the line. But the things that you're going to want to deal with right away are, looking at your zoning definitions, looking at things that, really are maybe, like, for example, you want to move forward with solar and alternative energies, but you don't have any of that in your zoning regulations, right? So those are, like, I'm going to call them low hanging fruit that that you have universal agreement on, and you also have universal ideas and concepts of how to apply those to the town. When you're dealing with some of the nuances and some of the larger, like, zoning changes, those we will have in more interactive discussions with, like, the town board to also see if they want to move forward with those based upon, like, maybe the subcommittee suggestions. And, like, something like, let's say, for example, with, like, affordable housing or multifamily housing, there's a slew of zoning types of applications that you could consider. Right? You could be rezoning a particular area, or, tweaking a particular zoning district. It could be doing an overlay. It could be doing a special use permit, or it could be doing something at some point in time, but not necessarily right now. So there's a number of different options that the board, and also could be just looking at your accessory apartment laws again, to see if there's ways to open up some additional opportunities there. So there's lots of different options. So it's not necessarily going to be a one size fits all, but it's really going to be based upon, what the feedback we're getting from the community, also feedback we're getting from the town board, and then also the subcommittee. But it's a good question.
Jan?
Yeah, thank you. I would echo that it's important to have, Judd Siebert from, our planning consultant be involved in this, but I'm also wondering about Jan Johannesson, who's our planning consultant. I don't know if there was any money put in a budget to pay for, I don't know how it works. I don't know whether that's covered by our agreement with the Kellogg Sessions, or whether there needs to be something specifically allocated for that. So I just am logging that now. I think it would be helpful to have his input, and we might need to talk about whether that's already covered, whether that's in the budget that was adapted, or whether there might be a need for some supplemental. So just pointing that out.
Yeah, and I'll just note that I already, at the beginning of the process, I did have a meeting with Jan as well as Joe Tremelli, the town's engineer. So I did have an initial meeting with them to identify like their issues or their concerns that they've raised. So that was also incorporated, but I just want to let you know, so there was already a touch point with them. So I think bringing them back in on some of these would easily, we can easily do that as well.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, great. So we don't have to make any decisions tonight about that. When did you say that would, when would the first meeting on this topic be?
So most likely probably in July, right? So we're going to get
Okay.
through the public meetings, and we want to make sure the other thing too is I don't want any appearances or anybody to think that we're starting to work on zoning before we finish public comments on the goals and objectives, right? So thought is to close that piece done, and then we can start on the zoning piece. And that's also right around the same time we're going to be starting to develop the comprehensive plan as well. And the other thing too, the other option is you can also carry over some of, for example, the town board liaisons. You could have two of those and both involved. And since they've been part of the comprehensive plan process and have heard the public input, maybe part of the zoning process as well. And I just want to emphasize again, because I know, there are definitely options to change things within the zoning code, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have to change, right? Because some of this is draft goals and recommendations. Some of it can be potentially done in phases, and it doesn't all have to be done at once, but we will be developing, we do want to have some implementation as a result of the comprehensive plan. So that's part of the exercise, will be what elements do we want to implement now, and which ones are going to be implemented in the future. And that's also part of the goals and objectives. We'll be identifying short-term, like longer-term objectives and implementation. So all that's going to kind of get worked in, and we don't have those answers yet because I think we're waiting to hear back from community input, and then also ultimately additional exercises with the comprehensive plan committee.
Yeah, one thing, if you read the New York State law about comprehensive plan, it basically says it sets kind of the groundwork the town has to follow. So this is kind of going to be an interesting negotiation, I think.
Yeah, well, it's not there. It is a framework. It doesn't necessarily mandate that, a town has to, implement each and every goal and objective, but as things sort of evolve, and those goals and objectives now start rising up to maybe something that's more immediate, then you already have that framework in place in which the town can do the implementation. But by the time we actually get into the summer, there might be something out of Albany dealing with housing as well. And so we're prepared to work that into your overall goals and objectives and zoning, in addition.
But the implication is the town needs to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, even it doesn't necessarily, doesn't mean it has to implement everything, but it has to be consistent.
That's correct.
Okay, well, this is really great. To be continued.
Yes.
Before we move on to committee project planning, logistics, Any lingering questions for Valerie on the subjects we talked about so far? Okay, thanks so much, Valerie.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we talked about the dates. All locations for the meetings are going to be at the planning offices, 79 Boughton Road, and wanted to just take a few minutes to sign volunteers up in terms of who can attend which meeting. And I think we sussed out tonight that the main responsibility of the volunteers will be the registration / welcome station, helping make sure everybody that comes in is welcomed and gets the welcome packet with all the materials, make sure they understand the format, that they can move at their own pace and go where they please, and that there'll be sort of independent stuff like sticky notes and drawing on maps, but then more interactive things like table discussions. Also want to make sure we have tape on hand and volunteers can swoop in and tape any sticky notes that are falling, make sure nobody removes or alters any posts, and ultimately making sure any content related questions get to the NPV facilitators. So in terms of volunteering, thank you, Charlene, for filling it out ahead of time. I know Kirsten is not available for that Saturday, May 13th. Are there other dates and times that you're available, Kirsten, as our point person for the building?
The rest of them.
The rest of them. Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. Okay. Okay, so while I'm writing in Kirsten's name, anybody else want to volunteer?
I'm pretty sure I can probably do 10th in the afternoon and the 11th.
The 10th in the afternoon and the 11th. Okay. I saw Rose had her hand up. Oh, you're on mute. I can't hear you. You're on mute, Rose.
Katie, can you take me off the 13th? That's
Yeah,
the
I was
one
gonna
you
say,
can-
I think that's the
cannot
one
do.
you can't.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Phew, double booked.
Okay, Rose, I still can't hear you. You can type it in the chat.
Okay,
Oh, now I can hear you.
yeah. I was gonna say the 10th and 11th, but looks like, how many do you need at each?
I think the more the merrier, because, you know, it can get a little busy if it's like 10
That's a better
people.
time for me, is the 10th and the 11th,
Okay,
June 10th and 11th.
so Rose. Because, you know, if a lot of people show up at once, if
Yeah.
we have more people, that would be better.
Okay,
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Let's see, we could use somebody on the Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon.
Katie, you could start filling my name in. I'm generally available, but just not on the 13th.
Okay, not on the 13th, but every other day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Anybody Saturday morning, Saturday the 13th? Mark, okay, fantastic.
I'm gonna have to check. We usually do water sampling on Saturdays. I have to, and I haven't filled out the schedule yet for that, so.
Okay, go ahead and get back to us. I think it looks like, do we have at least two for everyone's? Yes, right? Am I looking at that right? Yeah. Okay, so this is a great base to start with, and if we can add more people on top, fantastic.
Katie, one more. Could you take me off the afternoon on the 13th of May?
I'm
You really
sorry.
want me there, but I can't. I'm sorry.
It's my, sorry, Freudian slip, I guess. You're just so organized. Okay, there you go. Thank you. Anybody else? Did I miss anything? All right, cool. Thank you so much, everybody. Let's see what's next on the agenda. Okay, so I'm just confirming again. So because all the meetings are at the planning offices, that means that Valerie, your team can leave materials there in Kirsten's office, so you don't have to bring stuff back and forth. So the way that the childcare will be set up is the same way it was set up last time, is it'll be a station within the same room. And we have the donated art supplies left over from the first meeting, so we can reuse those. And then for the Sunday evening, there will be two translators there as well. And Valerie, you will need to get Kirsten the list of like how many tables you need and chairs and that kind of like infrastructure stuff. And Kirsten will be covering signage, making sure that the wheelchair accessible entrance is clearly marked. And what else? What else am I missing, group?
So
I think
if
the
you
only
need-
thing on the 13th, since Kirsten's not going to be there, we'll probably need somebody from the town.
Yes, and Kirsten is working on that right now.
Okay.
Larry?
Is it in the actual planning board room, or is it in a nearby room that has more open space? I'm just curious.
It's where we hold the planning board meetings, for example. It's the courtroom. It
Okay,
used to be
got
the
it.
gym at LES.
Yeah, and also the ACARC room and stuff, ACARC. So it's a general meeting room.
Good, and it's nice and big. And do I understand there are multiple entrances? That there can be like a side entrance and a wheelchair accessible entrance, or should we just do the one wheelchair accessible entrance to funnel everybody through one location?
Great question. We can use the typical entrance, or we can use under the portico. If you ever vote in the building, there's another set of doors closer to the police station, so we could use either.
I definitely want to make sure that we use the wheelchair accessible entrance and make it really clear. So it might be easier just because we're not going to have like a ton of volunteers if we just use the one entrance. That way everybody arrives in the same place, and the welcome station where you register and get oriented and hear about the format is just there, so nobody can like bypass it. I think that might be better.
Are we using the courtroom?
Exactly.
But then wouldn't the main entrance be the best entrance? You know, over with the right where we have to come into your office, right past the building department.
We could do either.
Is that wheelchair accessible?
They all are, yeah.
They all are. It's all one floor.
Yeah, they all have two sets of double doors, and
Okay.
We're gonna
Yeah,
have to
and if
keep
you-
those doors open.
I
To
think,
save a
I think-
little space inside, you could have the welcome outside, right? The registration outside.
That's
People,
true.
and then as soon as they walk in, they're ready to go to the different
Yeah.
stations.
That one
I
entrance
think
is,
if you have people come in the usual entrance past the building department, then they
Yeah.
will enter the building, enter the main room all at one spot, and you could have them go past the sign in on their way
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
and that's the one nearest the parking lot as well. So,
Yes.
yeah, main lot.
Sold. And if the weather is really nice and you want to take the welcome station outside, you could definitely do that, but it'll depend on what the day brings. It could be 90 degrees
Yeah, no, I was thinking more outside of the room itself.
Oh, not
Because
like
then that way, right, so then the whole room is just for the stations.
Okay,
And that way you'll catch people in the hallway in case they go in a different entrance that, you're still funneling everybody the same way.
Okay, that sounds great. Any other questions about day of? Oh, I have one. Valerie, how are you and your team gonna identify yourselves? Like make it obvious that you're the facilitators?
Well, we have lanyards, we can put those on.
Okay,
And we were toying around with trying to see if we can get something identical, but like, so we still gotta work on that, but we'll definitely have lanyards. So maybe those, I mean, we had name tags last time, but we'll work on lanyards as well.
cool.
So,
Just something extra so it's super obvious. And then our volunteers will wear.
well, we
name
can have lanyards for everybody. I mean, we have, we can do that if you'd like.
Is it something to distinguish perhaps? I want to make sure everybody knows that the actual feedback and input on the goals and objectives and vision needs to go to your team, not to,
Oh, well, that's fine. I mean, we can just wear the lanyards. That's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, we want everyone going to you as much as possible. Okay, any other logistics or day of questions or ideas? Okay, let me share my screen. So next meeting dates. We had scheduled next month, May 15th. That was already on the calendar, but we hadn't officially scheduled anything beyond that. So June, I think Valerie and her team we won't be doing a public committee meeting that month because we'll be in the midst of all the public workshops. If the steering committee needs to huddle to talk about logistics, we can definitely arrange that on the fly. But then we will reconvene as the group in July 17th, and then August 21st, and then so forth. So we scheduled these to not conflict with town board or planning board or CAC or ACARC. So we'll get those on the town calendar on our website, and we will get those out to everybody so that you can put the Zoom invite in your calendars. Open action items. So I'll go backwards here. So John, you mentioned May 31st for your outreach program with Eileen.
Right.
May 31st. And then Charlene and John are doing the library program on April 22nd in person and April 26th online. And the library has been advertising that. And that's just a really great opportunity to get the word out. Both of those, the senior adults group as well. Great opportunity to get the word out. Just more background on information about what the project is, why it's necessary, what we've done so far. I'm continuing to work with the town board on school district outreach and firehouse outreach. Parks and Rec is done. If you go to their website, they have a little button that says Lewisboro Comprehensive Plan, and you click on it, it takes you to our flyer advertising the meetings. And we've used all the town social media channels, and we'll be doing the email blasts soon. There's a separate document that has our advertising and outreach plan that I sent everybody the link to, so I won't take up the time now, but it's basically the same outreach and advertising plan we've used in the past, just with some additional stuff layered on top. I feel really confident that we are leaving no stones unturned here. So hopefully we'll get even more participation this time than last time. But as we know, we can control the process and how make sure that we're doing as much as we can to outreach to the community, but we can't control who actually shows up. So I won't focus too much on the results here, but rather the process. Any other items? Any other items on, what am I trying to say here? Action items. Any outstanding action items or questions or comments from the group? Okay, and yes, we don't have minutes. That's okay.
You'll have 2 sets next time,
2
hopefully.
sets next time.
But
That's all
speaking of
good.
new things, there's a new flyer. So whoever wants copies, please let me know.
Yes, let's take a look at that flyer, shall we? Okay, here's the flyer. It's on our Facebook page. It's been shared via email. It's 11 by 17. So if you have a printer that can handle that and you have paper, feel free to print it out. If you want paper copies, please talk to Kirsten. We can use all the help we can get posting paper flyers up around town. So if you're going to be out and about in the community and want to post, please use the sign-up sheets. In the emails that I've been sending out, there's links to sign-up sheets, just so we make sure nobody's duplicating efforts. You know, put your name down on where you're going to hang it up, and then mark it done when it's done. But I'm coordinating that with all the outreach teams. Mark?
So my experience in terms of posting these flyers on the boards at the town parks is it's helpful to have them. I put them in a plastic sleeve and put on thumbtacks. It's not so easy though, because a bunch of these town boards, these stanchions, right? Not the committee boards, are made of plywood, not cork. So it takes a lot of, like, you leave your house with a bunch of like thumbtacks, but what you really need is a hammer and a nail. Anyway, if we could laminate them, and now that you've got this, we've really developed this artwork, and it's certainly worthy of framing, let alone laminating. It would be good to have a few of these laminated, these beautiful color, with a QR reader. I mean, it's just very elegant. Lots of work went into these posters. But if we could go ahead and get a few of these laminated, or if you'd like me to look into that, because they will survive, because the paper copies, between the wind and the rain, they're gone within 48 hours on the town parks, and you know.
Let me look into that. We actually have some 18 by 24 posters that we're going to have later in the week as well. And I reached out to Nicole at Parks and Rec to see if we could post some of those really big ones on the outdoor park stanchions. Figured there's a lot of good real estate there, and those, I'm not sure, those must be thicker, but I'll see if there's an option to have them
If you're talking about the kiosks that are at each of the preserves and parks, some of them have Lexan as the plastic, and that's not penetrable. Are you thinking that you're going to thumbtack these, as Mark is saying, to the post?
Right. So, well, the preserves, we can't really do that
that's
very practically. Yeah, because of the glass enclosure there, or Lexan.
I think he's talking more about like
parks.
notice boards.
Yeah, the notice
Not-
boards. Yeah.
We're not talking about vandalizing other property. Don't worry. We don't
I didn't mean
that.
I didn't mean that. I was just saying it was going to be hard to vandalize it.
Yeah.
Are
Okay,
these
well,
flyers going to be in the library?
definitely the library.
Okay, so I don't have to ask for extra for Saturday.
No, you're good. It
Yeah,
should,
okay.
I'll let you know, but it should be up there ahead of time.
Okay.
But the outreach teams are going to cover lots of local businesses, usually the parks, town buildings. But yes, the list is quite extensive. You can refer to the sign-up sheets. But does anybody have access to a laminator of any kind? No. Okay, we'll look into it. Thanks, Mark. Any other questions? Okay, then right on time, I will motion to adjourn the meeting. And let's see, our next meeting, remind me, somebody had just opened the wrong window. Our next meeting is,
May
May
15th.
15th.
okay, so that's good. It'll be right after the first. We can kind of see how things are going and check in on outreach. Great, yes. So motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.
You
And
too.
thanks for all the hard work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.